Okay, well, let's get started. Um, so how to plan and organize your dissertation, right? The big beast.
Yes.
I want to start this conversation really by saying this is my opinion, my preference, my perspective. I've seen it successful this way. But everyone, all faculty members will have different perspectives. Again, um, take this kind of with a grain of salt. Other chairs may be more or less engaged than I am, and than what we will discuss. But this is definitely something that I think you guys should all be thinking about. And so, planning and organizing. So let's talk about planning for your dissertation. So I do a lot of reverse scheduling with my PhD students and with my advising students, actually. Because when you think about it, with advising students, you look at when they want to graduate and then kind of work your way backwards to where you are now and then fill in the gaps. So, really, that's what I would recommend is kind of working your way backwards, thinking about, I mean, obviously, when you're graduating, when you plan to graduate. I know some people are on a 3-year path. Newer cohorts, I think, might have a 4-year path. So um, I'm about to give you an example. So I think Michelle and Carol and this should be a perfect timeline for you guys. So um, if let's hypothetically say you are wanting to defend, you need to usually defend your dissertation by March of the semester that you want to graduate in the spring. Obviously, if you graduate in the fall, it would probably be more like October that you would need to defend. So what I did was I just worked backwards. So for my PhD students, where I'm the chair, I recommend sending the dissertation and the proposal to the committee members 1 month prior. Right? So again, a lot of these are just kind of made up numbers, but let's say March 15th is when you want to defend. So then you would want to send out your final draft to your committee members by February 15th, right? You might send it to your chair for a final read through by February 1st. The chair will give you edits, hypothetically, maybe by the 10th, no later than the 10th. You can make those edits and then send it out by the 15th. Again, these are all kind of hypothetical situations, and you would work with your chair on, how quickly they get, feedback to you and things like that. And then again, working your way backwards. So the whole spring, the spring prior to defense is when you have the proposal class too. So I've factored that in, and you do chapters 1 through 3 in that spring. So for the 3 of you at least, this is kind of obviously some of the timelines might be different for the class. And then you get ready to defend. So again, all I did was I started with this date and I worked backwards and worked backwards and worked backwards.
Dr. Hawley-Bernard.
Yeah,
That's sorry.
go ahead.
Can we get a copy of this?
Yeah, yeah. Again, I just kind of made these. Again, I made these numbers up. So, you guys should have selected a chair. And I'm sorry, Angela. I think are you a first year student? Is that right? Oh, sorry.
Yes, I'm first year. I'm
Okay.
in the third cohort.
So this timeline would sort of start for you kind of this summer, this upcoming summer slash fall. So having your chair selected, the three of them already have chairs, committee selected, and then what we're doing currently with at least two, Michelle and Carol, are kind of working on an outline and brainstorming the fall semester before you start your proposal class. And then what I tell, I mean, my PhD students, I tell them to treat this proposal class as if you are writing your proposal. It's not, by the end of it, I don't want you to have, a first draft of a first draft. I want you to have a pretty solid proposal. By the end of that class. So again, these are just kind of made up dates that I threw in there, but you're kind of tweaking and finessing the last of the proposal maybe in the summer. Maybe you kind of finish early summer, and then you send it to your committee members. Again, I say 1 month prior to the proposal defense. So let's say you hypothetically defend by August. I have my students during that 1 month that the committee is working on it, I have them prep IRB. So, because, they've sent off their proposal. Their hands are kind of tied with their proposal. So, all right, let's get started on prepping the IRB so that as soon as you hopefully get approval from the defense, your IRB might have a couple of tweaks from your committee members, but your IRB application is literally kind of within the next week or two ready to hit submit and ready to go off. And then data collection, it really can vary. Depends on how long it takes to get data, right? So I kind of factored in 2 months here to get data. I think that's a little fast, but so obviously I would love this timeline to be moved up, even more. And you're collecting your data pretty much all of fall. And then you're writing up the results. The results section tends to be kind of one of the easiest sections, I think, at least in my opinion, because it's very factual. You're just stating exactly what you found. And then you're writing up the discussion section in early spring, and wrapping up the references and appendices. And then you're sending it off. So again, all of this to show this kind of reverse scheduling. Think about things kind of in reverse and work backwards, and then set firm deadlines based on this, right? Like if there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in this timeline unless we move things up, right? Unless, all of this gets moved up earlier, then we would have a little bit more breathing room. So that's what I mean when I say reverse scheduling, is to kind of think backwards about it and then set some firm deadlines. So this timeline is almost exactly what I just showed you on the Excel spreadsheet. I needed another visual with the Excel spreadsheet. So, summer of year 2, you're kind of working on your chair. So Angela, that would be you, kind of this summer coming up, thinking about a chair. In the fall, you'll look at, with your chair, looking at committee members and then starting the brainstorming. And then you'll have the proposal class. Hopefully in the summer, you'll defend your proposal, possibly, maybe even early fall. IRB right away, data collection, writing up the results, the discussion, and then get ready to defend. I know it looks really easy on this pretty little slide, but that's what I have seen to be this kind of timeline to be very effective. So, and then again, this is where kind of working with your chair will really come in terms of setting some firm milestones. Like if you know you want to have the introduction done before you even start the proposal class, like you have a solid introduction before you even start the proposal class, like let's set that milestone and let's get that set. And then I kind of say, like, I'm tend to be a very type A person, and so these milestones may be exactly what you want. And I say, if you're a type B person, these milestones may be what you need. So again, that working with your chair, I will say as a chair, two things. I'm not going to work harder than you. And you set the pace, right? I can't do the work for you. I can't set these milestones. I can't, hold your hand and make you write. I can urge you and encourage you to, but I can't do it for you. And so you're going to have to be kind of the driving force in letting your chair know what you need. And so if you need these kinds of milestones and you want those, then ask for them, or, set dates and say, hey, can you help me, set these milestones and stick with them, kind of thing. That's probably one of the things that's one of many things, but one of the things that's been helpful with the two students that the two third-year students that I'm chairing currently is we've just worked really hard on setting milestones, and we worked backwards. Okay, so if you want to defend by October 10th, right, that means you need to send it to them by September 10th, which means you need to send it to me by September 1st, which means you need to have it done tomorrow, right? I mean, like a joke, but like that's how you kind of work backwards to figure out, some of these milestones. So I showed you that example. I'm happy to, let me write down who's here, and I'm happy to email that example to you. Again, it might be different. Angela, are you on a 4-year track?
Yeah, it's a 4-year for us.
Yeah, so you have a lot more freedom, a lot more wiggle room to kind of work backwards. And so you might play around with it a little bit in terms of the dates, but this is kind of a 3-year kind of trajectory. So, any questions about any of that? I'll write down who's here. Okay. So then,
the scheduling is very helpful. So thank you so much for that.
of
Very
course,
helpful.
again, that's just how my brain works. And I've seen it really be really successful for a lot of students to kind of work backwards like that. And then it kind of sets the deadlines for you almost. So organizing, first and foremost, one of the things that you'll probably want to start thinking about now, and the second year students, you guys are right in the middle of this, but having some organization method for your references. You are going to have, probably 200 plus references by the end of your citation, but by the end of your dissertation, I would estimate. And that can be really overwhelming. Are you going to have hard copies? Are you going to have electronic copies? How are you going to organize them to know what quotes to find and what sections? So I don't use it anymore, but when I was a PhD student, I used Mendeley. I don't know if you've heard of it at all. It's called There's one called Mendeley, and there's one called Zotero. So basically what it does is you can create folders within folders, right? So I might have one that says dissertation, and then I might have one that says literature review, and then I might have a subsection that says, this kind of thing. And then I would put the articles in each folder that corresponded with like where I used it in my paper. And then again, it's probably changed since I was a PhD student. It's probably updated quite a bit. But you can do some really cool things. You can do highlighting. You can star some things. It'll help with citations. Like if you enter all of the information, some of it picks up from the article, but sometimes I had to kind of correct some of the information. It will create the APA reference for you. So again, just something to think about as an option. Some people have their own system, and if that's what works for you, do it. I really struggled because I was in this phase where I had to have everything printed and I had to have a hard copy of everything. But that made it really hard to search for things, to remember where I saw a quote that I needed. And so I could easily search for things. They have a search bar. You can probably search through your highlights, your notes, your tags, right? So I don't currently use this for any project, but if I had to do my dissertation over again, I would use it again, and I would be more thorough with how I used it. And maybe watch some like YouTube videos that, whichever one you choose to pick, Zotero or Mendeley. I think both of them are free. Don't quote me on that, but pretty sure both of them are free. And it'll probably show you some really cool features that they do. It looks like needs review. You could put it in kind of a needs review section, a favorites, recently added. Anyway, so that's just one thing to think about for how you want to organize. I would just pick a system and stick with it, because organizing the references can be one of the hardest, most overwhelming things, because there's just so many of them a lot of times. Any questions about either of those? I know it's not a great picture, but so then the other thing about organization is I would encourage you to have these brainstorming sessions with your chair. Brain dump, right? Do some brain dumps where you just get out a piece of paper and you just write down, everything that you're thinking about regarding, a specific topic, or everything you're thinking about regarding your methods and what you might want to do for methods, any questions that you might have. And then the other thing that I think is really helpful, some people I've heard don't really like to do this, but I like to look at examples. So that's one of the first things, that I'll do for anything is I will go to the internet and look for examples. So have you guys... I'm hoping you guys know this, but if you go to the library website and you click journals, and then you hit browse, ProQuest, so it's under P, ProQuest theses and dissertations and theses. So this is where you can find pretty much all dissertations. A lot of dissertations. I don't know about all, but a lot of them. And if you are thinking about a specific topic, a specific methodology maybe, I know someone who wants to do a specific methodology that's kind of unique. And so maybe the population isn't the same as what they're looking at, but they want examples of the methodology section. So they could look up V, you're looking at doing photo voice, is that right?
Yes.
So, I mean, you could literally just type in photo voice and what's the population?
It was Native Americans, but I switched to Hispanics.
Okay. Yeah, so that Hispanic or Latino or anything else. Okay, so Hispanic or Latino. You could put a date. I probably should have done within the last like 5 years. Let's do
What is photo voice?
that. Yeah, so that's but V, you want to take it away? Why don't you explain a little bit about what photo voice is?
Yes, so it's a qualitative study, and what they focus on, you immerse yourself with the community and you provide them, let's say I'm interested in mental health, right? So I would go to the community and provide them with cameras, right? And or they would take photos with their cell phones, right? And about what mental health means to them. Like that's in a nutshell. And then you would use those pictures to portray this is what it means for them. So let's say that maybe it's, I don't know, my daughter, right? Like, so that's mental health for me because I spend time with her. Like, it all depends. It's whatever the participants are relating their topic to.
Are
So
they
it's very
perceiving mental
interesting.
health?
It's very powerful.
So I haven't even been, oh gosh, guys, I'm sorry. I've been walking you through this and I haven't been sharing my screen the whole time.
So can I just ask this question, V? I find this very fascinating. So in your dissertation, there will be several pictures, and with the pictures will be some discussion around the pictures. That's wow.
Yes, it's powerful. It's
Yeah.
very powerful. It's a really
Yeah,
powerful
and
read.
when I've done photo
Actually,
voice in the past, also we had them journal along with
Mhm.
the pictures, and so we had that rich content as well, where they're describing the picture and kind of the purpose behind it, and so that was really, really powerful as well. And there's just a lot of things that's been done that's really cool with photo voice. For example, they gave I'll never forget. I went to a presentation about this, and they had, I don't know if I guess like middle school students cameras and asked them to take pictures of what kinds of barriers they had for education, for getting there for school. And some would come home, some would came back with a picture of an empty refrigerator where they had no food, and some came back with drugs on the kitchen table, and some came back with pictures of their neighborhood, or just different things like that. That's so it's using photography as a medium for sharing their stories, basically. Yeah, it's really awesome. So I would turn to, I can't believe I went and did all up. So if you go to the library, this is what I did. I went to the library website, and then I went to journals right here. And then I hit browse, and then P for ProQuest, and then ProQuest dissertations and theses. So again, even if the population isn't the same, it could be a great opportunity to look up maybe a specific methodology that you're thinking of using, and look at how another thesis, another dissertation used that methodology. So that's another thing that I would absolutely recommend in terms of like when you're thinking about organizing your dissertation. Look to what has already been done, which is something you need to do anyways, but then look to what's already been done in terms of maybe your methods. Maybe they looked at a different population than you, and you want to really take a dive into their methods and look at what references and resources they used for their paper. So I like looking at examples. Some other people say it's overwhelming to them. I just think of it as, they're just examples and helping me to understand and wrap my brain around how to organize something. So, Carol, that might be something to look at for your MST, is how have others explained the hierarchy, kind of thing.
Yeah, and I was looking at one today,
Yeah.
and they basically did it the way I've done it. They spread it out throughout the literature. I think one did include a chart. No, but the chart was more about the statistics. I am going to include a chart though.
Yeah.
for mine.
So then the other thing that you will get something similar to this in your proposal class. And 3 of you should already have kind of the outline for the proposal class, I'm guessing. But this is what I've sent to my students and helping them to kind of organize the different chapters and the different subsections in each chapter. I'm happy to email this out as well. I did update it, so Carol and Michelle, I added kind of subsections in the chapter 4 and chapter 5, so I might need to send this updated version out to you guys anyways. So again, this is kind of an outline that I work on with students, especially chapters 1, 2, and 3, before they take that proposal class, so that they have a very solid outline, maybe even kind of a first draft before they start that proposal class. Because when that proposal class starts, again, if I'm chairing your dissertation, I will probably want to meet with you every single week, and every time you have a part of the paper that's due, we will look at editing it before it's even submitted, kind of thing. So, that said, for the proposal class, the proposal class, technically there's one faculty member who teaches the proposal class, but you're working with your chair on your proposal. So it's kind of this balancing act between the faculty member who's teaching the class and your chair. And if you want to do something slightly different than what the proposal class is asking you to do, because maybe, organizing it this different way helps the reader understand something better, then that's just something you need to communicate with your faculty member and your chair. I would bet that whoever is teaching the proposal class wants this to be as close to your proposal as possible. And so if you need to tweak, what order you put things in or something like that, I would think that you could just communicate that, and it might be something that's helpful. So for example, like historical background, some faculty members want that to be in the introduction section. But maybe for you, it works better in the literature review section because it ties in perfectly with the rest of your literature better than it might in the introduction section. So again, it's just something that you just have to recognize and know that proposal class is going to have an outline and going to have some structure for it. And if that's slightly different than what you maybe already have, we can work it out kind of thing. So that's kind of the example is sometimes the background goes in the introduction, but sometimes it is better with the literature review. Doesn't really matter. And then when you're organizing your dissertation, I personally, it's kind of up to you how you want to organize it, but I had one document for each chapter, and then I merged everything at the end. So, and the reason why I, as a chair, also prefer that is because when you send me your chapter 1, I will edit it. And while I'm editing it, you can work on another document that has your literature review. And then I can send the introduction back to you, and you'll have that document back, and you can make the edits, and you can send me your literature review chapter, right? So I like breaking it into separate documents. I do have a student who likes to keep it all in one, to keep kind of this running document. That's what's worked for her. I feel like it's been a little difficult because, again, when I'm editing it, she can't work on the document, or else she'll have kind of 2 different documents that she'll have to play with. So that's how I would recommend organizing it, is to have kind of a separate document for each chapter, and then kind of combining them all at the end. Even a separate document, maybe for your references. Oh gosh, I don't know how I do that.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about the references because I have a long list. It's like I don't want to take out all the references for chapter 1.
Yeah. So, I mean, you could probably just have, what I would probably do is have a master list document where I would keep everything, and then I would just copy and paste that into each section. Like, even if some of the references from the literature review aren't in that document because it's the introduction, I would still just keep copy and paste and have a single master list that has everything, rather than trying to pick out, which ones were from the introduction and which ones are from the literature review. Just have one document that has your master list of references.
Could we highlight, so give you chapter 1.
Mhm.
We have a running document for references. Could we highlight the ones that are attached to that particular chapter?
Sure.
That way we keep a running list and we're not the whole cutting and pasting is a
Yeah.
little scary to me.
Well, and I will remember, I'll never forget when I was doing my dissertation, I had to go through, and you probably will have to do this too, I had to go through my entire document and make sure that what I had in the text lined up with a citation at the bottom, and all my citations at the bottom, I had an in-text citation for it as well, right? So that was terrible. And that's what I did. I highlighted. So I would read the text and I would highlight, the reference, and then I'd go down to the bottom and highlight that one and highlight. And I don't really know another way to do that. I'm sure there's a better way. But that's probably how I would recommend it, is just having a single master list where if you cite something in your introduction, it automatically goes into this master list reference. And maybe you have another list of references for like possible add-ons or something like that. If you tweak a section and you need to add more, I can add this reference in as well if I need to add more. I don't know if that makes sense, but it'd probably keep a master list of references. As soon as you cite something in a document, it goes on that master list.
That's how I've been doing mine.
Yeah. So really in your proposal class, the proposal class is going to be looking at the first 3 chapters. Sometimes people break it into a 4th chapter and have a theoretical framework, whole chapter on the theoretical frameworks. that really, it depends on your study. It depends on the importance and relevance of the theoretical frameworks that you're using. For example, in my dissertation, I used stages of change model and theory, and that was a huge part of what I looked at. And so I think I may have had a whole chapter just on all of my theoretical frameworks. Again, it'll depend on your chair, the proposal class, how they kind of want it organized. You can kind of decide how you want to organize it. If I remember mine correctly, I had a whole chapter just for my theoretical frameworks that I used. So chapter 1 was the introduction, chapter 2 was the literature review, chapter 3 was the theoretical frameworks, and then chapter 4 was the methods or methodology. And so those are the sections that you're going to work on in the proposal class, which is a lot to do in one semester, which is why I always encourage my students to, the fall before you start that class, let's have either a solid outline of every single thing or, a solid first draft or something. Just to really kick off that semester on a good foot and have a little bit more time to be able to do things. The other thing with the literature review, you will need a ton of headings and subheadings in this section. Don't be afraid to use headings and subheadings. It helps to organize things. It helps. So here's an example of my literature review section. So I had an internal factors section, and then I had subsections for every single one of these. And then I sometimes had subsections under these subsections. Right? So don't be afraid to go down to different, like social support. For example, I had a subsection on, like religious social support and community social support and family social support, right? So don't be afraid to go with more subheadings. It just helps to organize it even more. I'm a fan. And then your research method. So this is really the meat and potatoes of what you're going to be doing. I tell my students that when you defend your proposal, this is the main thing that your committee is going to be looking at. They trust and know that your introduction and your literature review, they may have some feedback, so they may have some comments on it, but the crux of your dissertation is the methodology. And so being very clear about a description of the design of the study. In your proposal, you're basically saying the researcher will do this, this, and this. After you've defended your proposal and done your research, you'll change everything to the researcher did do this, this, and this. So there will be some terminology and language changing that you'll do. But being very clear about the participants, being very clear about any instrumentation or measurements that either already exists that you're going to use or you're developing. Very clear about the research procedures. And then, again, in the proposal, you will talk about how you will analyze the data. And that's a pretty big section of this that they're going to want to know how exactly you're going to be analyzing this. And then, so that's what you will defend in your proposal, is those chapters. After you have been approved from your proposal, you'll collect your data and do, well, IRB, obviously first, and then you'll collect your data, and then you will start working on the results. And then the last chapter is discussion, limitations, future research, and conclusions. Easy peasy, right? The biggest recommendation that I have is to just take it one step at a time and one section at a time. That's another reason why I like having separate documents for each section, and because it breaks it down into like more manageable parts. If you're just working on an introduction section with, one document, and then you have another document for a literature review, it makes it less overwhelming to me, in my opinion. Again, all of this is somewhat subjective in my opinion. So, V and Michelle and Carol, what would you guys agree with some of this planning and organization? How have you guys handled planning and organizing?
Yeah, what I'm using right now, I'm using Teams. So I'm uploading my references there, but I'm gonna use one of those. I'm sorry, give me a second. It's my daughter.
What I would say is that the outline was very helpful for me to use kind of as a template to kind of get my thoughts in order of how to start the process of approaching it.
Yeah.
And I did like the idea of it being broken down into steps so it didn't feel so overwhelming. And actually, how you have it here, it's broken down even further, which
Yeah.
kind of helps a little bit more. So I'll be excited to get this because it can kind of start narrowing down my focus even more.
Yes,
So
thank you for this because it makes it clear. At least for me, I like structure, so I thank you for that. And just having the idea of having separate files for the introduction, for the methods, that's gonna help as well a lot. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
and you could be working on multiple pieces of the larger puzzle. So if I get sick of looking at literature, I could jump back to introduction or then jump to methods a little bit, do a little. It just depends on how your brain works and how you're feeling that particular day.
Right.
But you don't have to necessarily, you need to complete one section, but you don't have to you could still be working on a separate section while you're working. You could be working on 2 sections or 3 sections at the same time. So anyway, I like how this is really laid out, and I think it offers an excellent option so people don't feel overwhelmed.
Well, and I think too, I will say, I mean, I try and provide a lot of feedback. And so if you send me one document that's your introduction, and I give you a lot of feedback and things that maybe need to be changed or updated or added, I can send that one section back to you and you can work on it while you send me, your next section kind of thing. And then you don't have this problem of like it's all in one document, so I can't really work on the introduction until she finishes this section. And so that's, I think, a good way to approach it. Angela, are you super overwhelmed yet? Hopefully not.
No, actually, this is really helpful. I think for me, I know, I'm a little ways off, but getting as much information as I can now is actually helping the whole process feel more manageable.
Yeah.
And that's why, even though, like I said, I'm not quite on the same kind of track as the rest of you guys are, I wanted to be able to see this tonight so I could start understanding it better, conceptualizing it a little bit better, so I don't feel as overwhelmed with the whole thing.
Yeah, and I can almost guarantee you that I bet they wish that this presentation had happened their first year, because it's starting pretty quickly. I mean, if I was you, I would probably starting to look for a chair in the summer, That's kind of, and then it kind of goes from there, because your chair is really kind of the crux of, what committee members and your topic and your, research questions and things like that. It all kind of starts with the chair. So other thoughts, tips, advice that's worked for you guys to share with others?
Angela, I would say start early. Start early, very much so. I think the more time you have, I won't say the easier it will be, but it won't feel as overwhelming.
Yeah. Well, and again, this timeline, I think, is kind of tight, right? Like, I am on a committee for another student who hasn't finished IRB yet. And so, and according to this timeline, right? And again, this is just a fake timeline that I made up. He should kind of be at the data collection being finished section kind of thing. So, I mean, it's just something to think about, these timelines. Again, they're not set in stone. There's a little bit of wiggle room, but not a whole lot. Unless you really work hard on your proposal and you defend your proposal very early in the summer, and then you have all fall to collect your data. That has worked beautifully for, one of the students who I'm chairing, and it's been perfect. So that was my biggest advice, is to really, really work hard on this proposal class and get that solid. And it's going to be really hard because it's week to week to week. I mean, you're, at least last year, I think he's changed the syllabus a little bit, but last year they had a different section due every single week. Again, I think he's changed it a little bit, but it's a lot. It's very fast. So the sooner that you can get some of this stuff done, the more on top of it you'll be.
One of the things that makes me really nervous is the IRB. I think all of us have been having a lot of issues, and I'm hoping that mine won't be so bad since I don't have to collect the data.
Right. So I just had a student, one of my students who I'm chairing, literally we just got IRB approval today, but it's for secondary data analysis. So she doesn't really have to collect any, her data collection is finished. So she just needs to start analyzing, and then she can write up the results. So I think this timeline is still pretty good for her, because, again, even though she got IRB approval today, it feels really late. She doesn't really have to collect a whole lot of data. It's going to be really just analyzing and then writing up the results. So if you can, obviously 3 out of 4 of you already have your topics pretty well set. But if you have a way to do secondary data, that's also very helpful. And I would absolutely not recommend a mixed method study.
No.
So.
I think Petra's doing mixed methods, right?
He was going to, but he switched to qualitative.
It's time consuming.
I was going to say, after this class, absolutely not.
Well, and I feel like it's literally 2 studies that you're doing when you do mixed methods, sort of. Kind of like you're doing 2 studies. And add on that the fact that it's a dissertation, which requires a lot more than just, a normal research mixed methods paper. It's a lot. It's not something I would recommend. Obviously, if that is something you feel very passionate about, I will do my best to. One of the things that I grew up with, my parents always said, we will support you no matter what. We may not encourage you, but we will support you. And so that's what I will say. I will support whatever you want to do for your dissertation. I may not encourage it, but if that's what you wanted to do, then I would help be supportive as best I could. So.
We have a lifetime to do mixed methods if we
Yes.
choose to do so after the PhD.
Well, and the other thing,
Angela, I hope you're listening.
yeah,
I hope
I
you're
think
listening.
you bring up a great point, Michelle, of one of the things that could make you very marketable is setting yourself up beautifully for the next study. So if you do some kind of, qualitative research study, or even quantitative, I mean, any kind of study, really, setting it up so that you have the option to do future research for when you get a job and have to do it for promotion and tenure, would make you very marketable. That's something you could say, I have this study, or I have, 3 different study ideas that have kind of branches off of my dissertation, kind of thing. So I will send out this reverse scheduling document. Again, this is, you'll have to change the due dates, and I don't really know how I would change it for a 4-year. I'd probably do a lot more of this stuff before the actual proposal class, and just kind of spread it out a little bit more. And then I'll also send you this outline that I've put together. Again, keep in mind, for those of you that are starting this proposal class, I haven't seen how he has structured the outline for the proposal class, so I don't know how well it aligns with that. This was just how I personally did my dissertation, and how I've seen a lot of dissertations organized like this. So keep in mind it might be slightly different for that class. Any questions? One
No,
step at a
so
time.
much.
Go ahead. Sorry, V.
No, I'm sorry. Just said thank you so much for this. This is really helpful.
Yeah, I'm glad it was helpful. I'll send these documents out to you guys here shortly. I will probably, again, I'm recording this. At least I think I'm recording it. And I will post it on YouTube and send the link out to everyone as well. Any other questions?
No, thank you so much. This has been
Awesome.
helpful.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
You guys are awesome. So just take it one step at a time, and I'm here if you guys need anything. All of us are. We want nothing but the best for you. We want to help you succeed. So whatever we can do to help you get there. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Have a
you.
great night.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.